Welcome back to our channels, Warriors. We are still growing. If you've been watching these videos and haven't hit the subscribe button, go ahead and smash it right now. This episode right here is going to be about, does the inmate population have rules of their own that they have to follow? Meaning not rules that we set forth from the California Department of Corrections, but rules that they've set forth within their own organizations. The answer is yes, okay? And how do I feel about it? Well, rules and structure are definitely necessary, okay? Especially in a violent setting like a prison system, the California prison system, right? So in my 16 years, ranging from officer, sergeant, and lieutenant, I got to see a lot of things, right? I got to learn a lot of things. I read a lot of things, right? That's kind of how I gain all this knowledge and experience. It's, when I first started in 2006 at Centinela, they would have kites, little tiny, also called huilas, these little tiny letters, right? Or like little strips of paper with micro writing. And I mean real tiny, like you could probably put like 100 words on like an inch type of little space. It's just crazy, right? The reason for those was due to lack of communication at the time, right? I'm not going to go into detail. I'm not going to go into debt. Yeah, I'm not going to go too far in depth with this, right? So a form of communication at that time was to write these little tiny letters, right? And send them wherever off they needed to go, and then get a response wherever that response is coming from, right? There's usually a hierarchy. There definitely is a hierarchy, right? So again, my whole career was based in Southern California, all right? So I only know of certain groups, right? I didn't work with Northern Hispanics at all, zero. That's due to my oh man, I'm chopping up my words this morning. Geographical area, right? I need another cup of chanate, man. So, with that being said, for the Hispanics that live down south area, do they have rules? Well, some of the rules make sense, okay? Like, you cannot talk to an officer by yourself, right? A staff member. So what we would see is like, we would call them like a shadow, right? They would bring a shadow with them. Like if one dude had to ask you a simple question, something simple, they always brought a homie with them. They always brought like a friend, right? It's kind of funny because in the military, they teach you bring a battle buddy everywhere you go. I didn't really think of the prison like that, but it was clear what the intent was. The purpose of that second person was to ensure that the first guy ain't snitching, right? Ain't telling, ain't ratting. It's almost like a form of security insurance. And some of my partners used to have a problem with that. Some of my partners would be like, hey, you get out of here. Like referring to the other guy that had no business talking. They would kind of give that look like, hey, man, I can't go. Like, I can't, right? And I never tripped on it because whatever. I was never ever saying anything I shouldn't have been saying, right? So it was like, nobody was saying, like, we weren't doing anything shady, right? So it was just like, whatever. I understand these are their little rules or their rules, no disrespect, but like, I get it. Another rule is clearly the tables, right? The areas, the basketball courts, the day room. They have these areas, right? You cannot, on any race, you cannot cross certain invisible lines because it is going to kick something off. That's how volatile it is, right? Like, man, and again, that was probably necessary too. If not, you would just have chaos, right? At least this is kind of structured. When rent is due, right? I'm not gonna go into details on this, right? When rent is due, rent is due. Bottom line, right? They got to pay to be there. Like I said, you're going to always answer to somebody. Like, that's the crazy part about it, is that there's people you have to answer to, right? So, yeah, for those of you guys that don't know what the hell I'm talking about, like, what do you mean? Is there a landlord? Not quite a landlord, but you get my drift. So another rule is you cannot show cowardice, right? You cannot be a coward. Does that mean that some people don't show cowardice? Everything varies, right? I think by now we've established that it doesn't matter that there's good people and bad people on each side, right? Even our side, green side. I've given you many examples of lames and bad people on our side. They're usually at the higher rank, but you can find them wherever. So another rule, man, this one gets my anxiety up, man. It's crazy. It's like if one gets involved, everybody gets involved, right? And that I knew that since day one, man. And they taught us that at Sentinel. Like, if you're patting down a dude, right, giving him a closed body search, and that inmate has a weapon on him, an inmate manufactured weapon, a shank, then like he has the green light to use it on you. Like, it was kind of common knowledge, like he's supposed to use it on you. So we were like, man. I remember I told that to a friend who didn't work in the prison. And he's like, well, can't you just not search him? Like, don't search him so you can avoid that situation. I'm like, no, that's not how that works, man. But it's like, you're prepared for it, right? You brace for it. In your head, you've already done that takedown in your head. So like, when you feel it, when they move, you move. But then you're going to get stomped out shortly afterwards. So it's in your best interest to get up as soon as possible. Which was always sketchy, man. I never liked the game of numbers, right? That's always sketchy. So if one follows suit, no being drunk out on the tier, no being drunk out on the day room. Also great rule. Why not? Being drunk is dangerous, especially in a prison system, man. That liquid courage, you lose your mind. Well, at least I used to use my mind when I used to drink, but I mean, you black out. Some people black out when they drink. Who knows what they're gonna say? God forbid they say anything that's gonna spark something off, because now that person created a problem for everybody. That person's probably gonna be in trouble, right? Within his own. And so that rule makes sense. Like, you can't be high out there on the tier. Have we seen? I kind of been gathering and it's been reminding me, yeah, you used to see these dudes high on the tier, like, just like you could tell because they're falling asleep standing up. You could see them at the cell door. We used to have dudes like ODing at the cell door on the outside, like talking to the side of the door to their homie, and next thing you know, they're just hit the ground, they're out, right? Then we got to revive them, CPR, Narcan, and all that. So that was a good rule. What else, man? Basically, like, if you're ever asked to do something, right? And I'm not talking about the cops asking these inmates. If you're ever asked to do something and you tell them no, I don't think no is an answer, right? No is definitely not an answer. It's not in your best interest to say no, okay? And yeah, that's the unfortunate part about it. That's the crazy part about it, man. You can go in there for like a DUI. You can go in there for, and I've given a story how people have went in there for DUIs, participated in a murder, and now guess what, man? You're facing the music. Maybe you weren't a hardcore killer when you went in there, but your stay just got extended, right? So rules are rules, man. Me personally, is when it comes to rules, like, I've never really broke rules. I've bended the shit out of some rules, man. I'd be bending the rules that I'd be bending rules so much that it looks like it's gonna break, but I don't. You know what I mean? It's not because I'm perfect, but because in the past I have broken rules and I learned my lesson the hard way. So No disrespecting cops. That's another rule. Man, I love this one. Why not? Why not? You know, and everything has its purpose, man. And that one makes sense, because if you disrespect a cop, it's depending on which cop you disrespect, or even we do band together, right? So if you have a guy with experience and a person with no experience and he gets disrespected, you better believe that the guy with experience is going to handle that, right? Not so, the way it looks is like, hey, dude, what'd you say? Come here, right? Like, you're not going to do that. You're not going to front one of us off. You're not going to. Are you standing up for your partner? Yes. Does it look like he can't carry his own? Well, it kind of looks like he needed a little bit of help, but it's not that big of a deal, right? It's just like, okay, we know this person isn't going to say nothing, but I'll be damned if that happens in our presence, then we have to address it, right? We kind of have unwritten rules of ourselves, right? And that's just to maintain order, right? Because if you have inmates disrespecting staff left and right, RJD, Charlie Yard, ADSEG, right? It's just pandemonium, chaos. Next thing you know, you're going to have inmates taking the basketball court hostage by hanging onto the basketball hoop. Yes. Yeah. Imagine that. Imagine you hear a code 3 over the radio. Code 3, we got numerous inmates just hanging onto the basketball court. Oh my God. Wow. Wow. Wish there was some rules there, man. Get your ass off the goddamn basketball court right now. It's like you're a father with a belt. Get your ass off right now. So, with that being said, rules are rules. Like I said, I only had limited experience working in Southern California. I know that there's rules elsewhere, clearly, but I don't really like to speak on topics that I don't know about. Well, I refrain from speaking on topics that I don't know about. So I'm not going to speak on those, okay? And yeah, this might be interesting information for somebody that's never even encountered an inmate or the rules or went within prison. So yeah, those are some of the rules, not all the rules. And that's how I feel about them, right? Maybe my former partners feel different, okay? So the message for today is, man, if you're trying to grow, if you're trying to, well, I'm not trying to get nobody killed in prison, but if you're trying to grow, this is more for outside. Sometimes you gotta fail. You gotta fail to learn, right? And to get outside of your comfort zone. Let's say this is your comfort zone. You gotta try new things, right? You gotta branch out. So, and when you stumble, right, you're gonna get back up. At least you have that experience, right? And you're like, damn, I'll never do that again, right? And that's growth. Keep pushing forward.